Welcome to April 25th LeetCode Challenge, Peeking Iterator. Design an iterator that supports the peek operation on the existing iterator in addition to the has, next, and the next operations. To implement the peeking iterator class, the class itself takes in a peeking iterator, takes in the iterator integer array called num, so it initializes the object given the integer iterator. It has the next method, which is returns the next element in the array and moves the pointer to the next element. The has next method, which returns true if there exists that there are still elements in the array, and the peek method, which returns the next element in the array without moving the pointer. Note, each language may be different and may have a different implementation of the constructor and iterator, but they all support the next method and the has next functions. Alright, so we call the peeking iterator, we call next. So we call a peeking iterator on the array 1, 2, 3. We call next, peek. Next is 1, right? Peek, so peek, look at the next one, which is 2, and we move next, which is we're moving on to. We call next on to 3, right? We move the pointer. Then we call has next, so we're on 3. Has next is false because there's no value after that, as explained here. Our constraints: the length of nums is between 1 to 1,000. Each index of nums is between 1 to 1,000. All the calls to next and peek are valid. At most, 1,000 calls will be made to has next, and peek. And how we design this to be generic, it works all types, not just an integer. Alright, there's lots of hints here, but this is basically a method building type of question. So the first one is define an init function. So two things we're going to define here. So self.init iterator itself. And that's going to be our method, our init function. It's going to be iterator. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we need to be able to keep track of our current pointer. So it's going to be self.current. And that's going to be self.iterator. And then we need to be able to return, return basically assign self.current to be the self.iterator next, or if the self.iterator has next, then we return none, else none. So basically, assign self.current to be self.iterator.next if the iterator has next, else assign current to be none. And this works by depending on the next function and the has next function as well. So we'll work on that. The peek one is pretty easy, so basically return. So let's see, has peek returns the next element in the array without returning moving the pointer. So basically what we need to do is self.return current in our init function here. Has next returns the next element in the array and moves the pointer to the next element. So what we want to do is we want to assign a value to be updating to self.current, and we want to basically return value. So basically this is the value we want to return, and we want to move the pointer as well. So before we return that value, self.current will be assigned to self.iterator.next if self.iterator has next, else none. Well, similar to this statement as such. And then the last one is a Boolean return if self, which basically returns self.current is not equal to none. Alright, and that should be good enough. Let's run the code. Looks good. Alright, there you go. Accepted. Alright, and I don't want to give the time and space complex for each of these methods of functions, so there you go. That's it. That's all. Have a great day, guys.